Welcome to Tech Simplified, and my name is Sly Gittens. We're back. I know you've been waiting for this episode. I had to go real far for this one. I had to go to the depths of Microsoft. I had to go to find this talented, beautiful lady, Lisa Williams, a director in business development at Microsoft. Lisa, I don't want to steal your thunder. Will you please share a little bit how you got started on your journey in tech and a little bit about your first position?
Sure. So thank you. Very kind words, Sly. Pleasure to be on the podcast. My journey into tech was really circuitous, I'll say. So I started my career in insurance. I worked for a large insurance company, and then I went to back to school and got a secondary degree, and then went to work for Kodak, another really large company. And when I kind of looked at, do I like large companies or what am I most passionate about? It was like, I think I like growing things. I think I like building things. And so I had an opportunity from a friend from grad school whose father was starting a healthcare business in Tennessee that was actually trying to start a pilot program for bringing broader benefits to the Medicaid population in Tennessee, so that we could have equal access to healthcare. And so I said, you know what, let me try this startup thing. So I went and worked for him and with his daughter for a little while, and then got homesick. So that was in Nashville. And then I was like, I need to be closer to my family. Moved back home, just quit my job, which, that's the benefit of youth. Quit my job, moved back home, was at, a temp agency, reconnecting with people that I had grown up with and outside of Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I have this friend. He needs someone like you who knows how to build things from the ground up, who's
Yeah.
passionate about small business. He needs somebody like you." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm looking for a job." And he was like, he works for Microsoft. And I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Oh, I'm a business strategist. I don't really know anything about technology. I don't know. I'm not sure about this." And he and his friend were like, "No, no, no. That we need someone who understands, how to build, how to speak to small businesses and how to build something." And so I reluctantly went and interviewed because technology was really not on my radar at all. And the gentleman who hired me into Microsoft was just a dynamo, and he like convinced me, "Don't worry, you can learn everything you need to know, no problem, just come work for me." And I was like, "When I tell you I don't know technology, I don't know technology." And then that was 24 years ago. So that was how I got here. It was really a happenstance, and again, I never really saw myself in technology, but it has been a really pretty awesome 24 years, a journey of learning and growing and building things, and no 2 days are the same. And so, so it's been a fun experience.
That's a beautiful story. And the reason why it's such a beautiful story, it shows you the power of being open and trying new things, right? Because you didn't envision it. Like for me, I always liked computers since I was a little kid. So I kind of
Hmm.
knew that I'd do something with technology. I didn't really know what it was because no one in my family did it. But
Hmm.
I never knew that, like, I just knew that's something I was going to do. I had to learn the business side of it and found out I actually enjoyed that probably even more than I did the technology. And happenstance, I got into my role as half tech, half business. So it's really cool to see those synergies. I mean, just being okay to accept a new opportunity. And I think that's something that I try to stress to anyone that I meet is like, you got to be open because I didn't know what a partner was. When I never heard of Ingram Micro. I remember I was in college and I'm looking for a job and I'm working as a network engineer. I'm like, man, this is too technical. I'm behind in the basement, behind a server room, coding. I'm like, where are the people at, man?
Where are the people? I need to talk to the people,
I'm tired of
right?
hearing these servers going up and down. So I would walk upstairs and talk to the people in the business. Then I would solve problems that our tech team didn't see because they never talked to the people in the business.
Hmm.
And I remember I was back in Brooklyn. I went to the college at the University of Buffalo, and then I end up, I call one of my IT counselors. I'm like, hey, do you got any jobs in Buffalo? And they said no, they had Geico. I'm like, that's an IT company, that's an insurance company. So then I looked up online. I'm like, hey, it said I heard a company called Ingram. I read the Bloomberg. I saw them in there, and I read the profile. I'm like, $40 billion. I'm like, I don't
Big.
care how many companies that do that. Like, it says it's a tech company. And I ended up looking it up, and I'm like, what is partners? What's a distributor? And then I took a shot. It was like $15 an hour to do a tech support job. And again, my parents were like, you know, leave Brooklyn to go to Buffalo for $15 an hour. I'm like, well, $15 an hour in Buffalo gonna go a long way, you know.
Absolutely.
So I was like, and this company, has Microsoft, Google, and they talk with all the tech companies. I'm gonna take all the certifications. And lo and behold, 12 years later, it helped. It was the baseline for my tech career. It took all that book knowledge and turned to practical knowledge, right? And
Mhm.
now, these roles pay well when you're in a partner. A lot of people don't know about it, but again, this goes back to the opportunity. So I know during that amazing journey, you had to be faced with some challenges. What were some of those challenges you faced just normally and as a woman, especially a woman of color? And how did you go about overcoming those?
Yeah, sure. I tell this story a lot. So when I did go in to interview in the Philly office for Microsoft 24 years ago, I was like surprised by the fact that there were really no people of color for sure, and there were very few women. And so, like, if there were women, they were either the admins or some marketing, but even not a lot in marketing. So that did take me back because I'm like, this is the Philly office. Like, what is going on? So, I mean, I think it just speaks to it is an industry where you don't see yourself in leadership. You don't see yourself, every day. And so you have to have confidence in like who you are as a person and what you bring to the table, in all your interactions. The challenges are just that people don't have context for anyone like you in their purview, and so it's hard sometimes to find executive sponsors, for the next role that you may want to go to without being very intentional and very deliberate, or even mentors, because you don't necessarily travel in the same spaces that the folks like. I'm not a sports girl. Like, some
Yep,
girls are sports girls, I'm not a sports girl. So sometimes you don't have a lot to talk about outside of the business at hand. So
yep, yep,
I think that can be a challenge, just finding a way to find people who are willing to bet on you and your capabilities in
yep.
an environment where there's not a lot of people who look like you in the industry. So, I mean, it's changing slightly. It's definitely gotten better over the 24 years, but in the beginning that was challenging. It's you have to come with your A game. You have to come prepared. And that's not something I wasn't used to doing, but it was hard at first to just always be the only.
And that
Yeah.
can be challenging. I know in my short career, I did that going to University of Buffalo, right? I was in my tech classes. I'm the only minority there. If there is probably one other person, things that they do on the weekends are completely different than things that I do on the weekends.
Yeah.
But you can find common grounds, of course, and you learn
Absolutely.
to assimilate. But it's tough, right? So like especially now me going here, I know Microsoft changed a lot. So I definitely see the growth, but it's still, of
Mhm.
course, there's more opportunity to just get even better, right? And that's why
Absolutely.
I created this podcast, right? To show people like you and myself who look like us that you can do this too, right? It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but you can definitely do that. You definitely belong in tech, especially we need more women in tech. I just want to make that just a common space. Like eventually, it won't be a woman in tech podcast; it'll be people in tech, right? So we don't have to do these things to get more people like yourself in these roles because we can't fill all of the roles. We need more people in these roles, right? So thank you
Absolutely,
for
and
sharing
also
that.
tech is big. Like, you don't have to be a developer, although we
Yeah,
need women developers, but it's big, it's broad, and there's a lot, happening, and there's a lot of good that the world can do. Like, we have, like, to me, I'm drawn to, we have a philanthropic arm, a
mhm,
business unit, like, in philanthropies, that they help nonprofits, right? Or they sell solutions to nonprofits. So it's like, you're right about the openness to exploring new opportunities, because once you get in, that's how I've been here for 24 years. I would have never thought that. But once you get in, you see, oh, there's lots of different ways that I can move, right, in this industry. And so it's about being open.
And that's great. And I think you mentioned something there is critical, right? Is once you get in, there's so many different ways. Like I'm a part of the Black Partner Growth Initiative, where I actually
Mhm.
go and I'm the lead tech there to help them understand how to work with Microsoft better. How do you work internally? How to overcome some of those challenges. So again, we increase the business, those businesses as well, right? I
Mhm.
was a part of the Women in Tech group, right? Being as an ally, something that I was kind of hesitant. I'm like, women in tech. I'm a guy and I'll do the podcast, but now I'm on the board. And I
I
kind
know,
but again, it opened up a lot of opportunities where I was able to share my insights and be a part of something that was bigger than myself. But
right?
that kind of nicely ties into the third question is, how do you think we can encourage more women to pursue a career in tech?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is just the more we can highlight that we're here, right? Women here. I think the work that you're doing on the board is amazing. And, reaching out and letting folks know that there's opportunity for women here. It's not hard. There's other people that are willing to sponsor you, to mentor you. Like, for sure, as new Black women come into the company, because I've been here so long, people, tend to find their way to me eventually. Not everybody in the company, but I definitely talk to and mentor a lot of young Black women coming into Microsoft to give them my perspective, not necessarily, the end all be all, but my perspective on what I would do if I were talking to myself 24 years ago when I started, to get, you know, everything you can out of a company like Microsoft, which there's a lot you can get out of. It's been a good experience. And I also think I reach out like in my church and let folks know, like, hey, it's not a bad career path. If you don't know what you want to do, I would encourage you to at least take a look at technology, because this is what it has done for me. So I think evangelizing what the possibilities are, what the benefits are. Certainly there are some downsides. We do tend to work a lot
Right. Yeah.
in the tech industry, but letting folks know and reaching out and letting more women of color, people of color, understand that there's a lot of opportunity to be had here, and it can be fun and exciting. And there also, if you find yourself in a spot that you don't particularly care for, the beauty of a company like Microsoft and some of these tech companies is that it's always evolving. And so there's new branches that you can kind of tackle. So,
Yeah. And I think that's well said. And it's just again, feel free to reach out because, like myself, I got mentees that I definitely encourage. Like one of my mentors, I have a mentor, right? Because I'm like, how do you move up? How do you get into those leadership roles to make change, right? How do you break through some of those barriers? And I had to reach out, and show up, right? When you get their time and make time, do your homework. Who are they? What do they like? And just, be okay that some of them may say no. I had mentors that told me, you're not ready. And I'm like, all right, how can I get ready? And then they
that's
would just
right.
give me some advice. And then I took that, as positive feedback. I wasn't ready. I didn't do the homework, right? But that wasn't not for me not to get help. They just wanted me to get their time is valuable because as you
That's
move up, you got you got the same 24 hours. How do you prioritize that time between families, through personal enjoyment, through tasks you got to do at work, and so on and so
yes,
forth? It's got to be really critical of time. But don't get hesitated when you see all those certifications I take. Don't matter, right? I'm willing to share. I know you're willing to share, and most of the people, like I joined Blacks at Microsoft, so I can be around more people who look like me who are doing amazing things. But then it's a next level, right? You get around, folks that look like you.
energy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's
yep.
cool. And there's so many opportunities again that you can find. And even if you come and you find a role, like I give you an example, I realized tech support was good, but that wasn't where I want to end my career at. And that was fine.
Mhm.
It gave me an option to go out into the world. So the one thing I would share with the younger audience here is never take a role that gives you less options, right? Always take a role that provides different avenues. So, like for my role that I do at Microsoft as a partner technology strategist, I'm technical, I'm a consultant, I'm sales, and you might say a jack of all trades, but I get to master certain skill sets that now, if there is a downturn in the economy, I can pivot. I can go into a management role. I can become a cloud solution architect. I can become a partner development manager. There's so many different things that you can do. And I always try to give me some more skills. And then another thing I probably say is gap analysis, right? What skill sets do you have? What skills do you want to grow? Like I always have a list of skills I want to grow, or I
Mhm.
might need to collaborate with Lisa because she already possessed the skills, right? So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, you shared a lot of gems there. So that was great. I know you did a lot of things in your career that had a lot of profound impact. But if you could name one particular accomplishment that you want to share with everyone. And the reason why I asked this question, here's some context, is sometimes you don't get your flowers. I'm going to give you your flowers now.
Ah.
Something that you felt that you made some impact on.
So I'll say 2 things, I think to that. The first is, just earlier this year, in all honesty, I went to a conference and I've been in, around the partner community for a long time. About, I'll say 18 of my 24 years at Microsoft have been in partner.
Yeah,
And so at this conference, there were a lot of folks that I had not seen in a long time just from my 18 years being in the partner ecosystem.
yeah,
And I will say at least 5 people came up to me in that conference that I hadn't seen for a long time and said very positive things about the impact that I had either on their career or on their life. One of the gentlemen that I had worked with maybe 12 years ago just said, my daughter actually came to the conference with me because she just graduated and she's off to college, so she was
yeah,
like, I'm just going to hang out in the hotel. And we were walking to dinner and he said, I just have to tell you, your mom is an amazing woman. She is so awesome. She helped me so much when we worked together. And for me, it was like, oh my goodness, like you're running a million miles an hour, you're doing your job as best you can, you're being you,
yeah,
helping others and whatnot. And then to just actually hear people say that that has been a positive thing in their lives, like that is the impact that I wanted to have, the legacy,
yeah,
kind of you want to leave is to do things that help others. So that certainly put a big smile in my face and heart, for sure, that then I've been able to help others. That's huge. But I will also say that I was fortunate enough, which is amazing. Microsoft has an award called the Pinnacle Award, which is awarded to like 24 people a year in the company across the globe. And 2 years ago, I was a Pinnacle Award winner. And that really, for me, was quite the accomplishment to be a woman, to be of color, to achieve an honor like that is only afforded to 24 people out of the 300,000 employees we have a year. So professionally, for sure, that was another kind of just accolade or whatever that really made me proud of the work that I've done for this company and the dedication of my life, I guess, to this company, that it was acknowledged. So
yeah. Well, no, that's fantastic. I think one thing you said is sometimes the achievement or the accomplishment is helping investing in someone else. The past, I
yeah.
like to look at it. I used to run track. When you pass a baton, you got to look it in the other person. Now you realize they running and they off running and they say, they stop and say thank you, right? And that's a beautiful feeling. So I know those are some of the things. The reason why I started this channel, I get those things. I mean, I wrote my book, Daddy's Little Girl, and so many men come up to me, regardless of the color, like Sly. I never felt comfortable to put my emotions on paper,
Mhm.
right? So for me, I didn't really want to share it. My wife had told me to share it. I wrote this for my daughter, like those are just personal stories me and her had. And I want to,
Mhm.
when we got older, as we grow, I could share it to her. But I'm glad I'm glad I shared it because now every night she picks up her book and I read it to her,
That's
and
good.
she likes it. So, and then people come up to me, "Are you afraid?" One people don't like it. I didn't write it for them. I wrote it
Mm,
for her. So
mm,
if she's the only person who ever reads it, I'm happy. That was the
Absolutely.
goal.
Yeah, you
You know,
inspired me, like, I'm like, "You're inspirational to me." I'm like, "I wanna write a book."
yeah.
I'm like, "I love it."
See how we can help each other. That's the beauty in this, right?
Mhm,
You get the personal accolades, and those are great, but those wear off, right?
mhm,
For me, like those achievements, how do we get the next set of generation to be here? How do we empower others? How do we build a community? And those are the things I think is also fruitful about being in these roles, right? So
mhm.
that was
Ab
great. So question I have is something that I'm dealing with right now. How do you handle work-life balance in tech? Because you've been in there for 24 years. You raised children. You just said your daughter is graduating. So they are getting to that point now where they've grown, right? How did you
Mhm.
manage being an amazing mom, but also a amazing employee and climbing the ranks also?
Yeah. I will say it is different trying to have work-life balance once the children come in to play. Because before I had a family, I mean, I could work hard but play hard. Like that really was a thing that could happen. Once I had my daughter, work-life balance became much more important to me. So there are trade-offs. Like I know there are a lot of folks who say you can have it all, but it's like you can have it all, but one is going to be more important. And I think for me, the realization of that and the sacrifice that I would have to make in order to make sure I showed up as the mom I wanted to be first was well worth it. For some, it may not be, but for me, my work life balance meant I'm going to pivot and index to making sure that I take roles and work for managers who understand what a priority it is for me to be a good mother.
Yeah.
And so that could mean that I did not climb as high as I could have if I didn't make that choice at Microsoft, but that was a choice that I was willing to make. And so it worked out well for me. Now, on a day-to-day, the work-life balance, I mean, you have to fight for it. Like if I have to get up like a half an hour earlier than would like to because I love sleep. If I have to get up a little bit earlier to have a moment to exercise so I can keep my mind, to keep the stress down and keep my mind, focused, then that's what I'll have to do because you really have to budget your time so that you even today, like my child's leaving in 3 weeks, and so I want to be able to knock off work at 7, at the latest, so that I can spend some time with her. So you have to be very intentional.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and that's commendable, right? Because I'm kind of in that critical, pivotal decision point right now, right? And earlier in my career, I'm going 120. Me and my boys used to say, we going hard on work, then we gonna hit the club after, wake up early, give a presentation, and nothing is happening.
That's right.
I got my son and my daughter and my son now, and I'm like, man, I'm just struggling to get some sleep, man. So
I
uh,
love
and,
sleep.
and the things just change, like my priorities change. I'm very ambitious. I always got goals, and I always want to get more and get houses. I got all of this, and those things don't make me as happy anymore, right? Seeing my daughter and seeing her smile in the morning, being there and knowing some of the littlest things that she will like, that because I'm home, I can see it. I can
Mhm.
tell how to comfort her instantaneously. That to me, those are major wins, right? Again, I could build a multi-million-dollar business, but for me, if I do that and I don't know my children, and I lost. For me losing. Like
That's
other
for
people
you,
might,
right? It's a decision.
so and
Yeah.
then I realize in this game there's no right or wrong. You got to find the charter that's right for you, right? So this is something I've been going back with, because when you grow up from modest means, very modest means, right? You want to increase that network, which we're doing, right? So sometimes you can fall into that trap of just to keep on achieving, but then you got to realize why. Why are you doing it for? Because if
Yeah.
it's to give it to your kids, but you don't invest in your kids, then how do you make sure they can leverage the stuff that you sacrifice them for anyway? Right. So for
Absolutely.
me, again, it goes back to when I ran, relay and track. You got to look it in, because I don't want to fumble that baton, because those are the things you leave behind when we go to, the afterlife. Right. So for me, they got to be ready, and they got to be present, because I know how important, especially, my
Yeah.
daughter needs to have a father in her life. She needs to know that I care, so those things, work. They just got to understand, I show up. I'm great. I'm a high performer. But I'm going to dance recitals. I'm
That's right.
ballet recitals. Like I'm going to games. I'm going to the things that it might be minuscule to someone else, but those little things are what she actually cares about. I could buy her a bigger house. She don't care about the bigger house. She want to spend time with me and her mom and her cousins and those things. So, of
Absolutely.
course, you need the resources to be in the means to do that. So there's ways to do that, and then you got to make some sacrifices. I might not be able to go to everything.
Mhm.
If I could go to most things, those are the things I'm willing to sacrifice. So again, when I say these things to the audience listening, think about what matters for you, because maybe none of that matters, and you just want to have that super yacht. To invite me
That's
on it because I told you about it. Invite me on that yacht so I can hang out.
that's right.
You
That's
know,
right. I'm
yeah,
down for
I'm there too. So and not saying I won't get those things, but you just got to figure out. My
your
kids,
why.
1 and 4, and they're gonna be grown soon. Like I'm the youngest in my family, and I'm turning 35 this year, next month, right? And that time went so fast, and you can't get that time back, right? So for me, I really want to be there, especially in the moldable years, like to 1 to 6. You really can make that impact, and you're setting the foundation of them. Right, you want to make sure they know how it feels to be loved, right? Because a lot of the stuff that happened is kids that never had that love in the beginning, right? They always questioning that. So
That's
those are the things I try to do. So you can find companies that can do that. You might
mhm.
have to go through a few companies that don't have it to understand it, because I didn't know what I had until I started experimenting and finding different roles in different companies, right? And then you realize some companies value work-life balance, and it depends on the stage of the company. If you go to a larger company like Microsoft, like we work at, there's a lot of people, so you're going to be able to do work-life balance because there's someone else that can help you. But like I went to a startup, I was
Yeah.
employee number 32.
Yep.
There's
I
no
was
days off. It was
never
like,
meant to be. It
so
was rough.
so it's every day you grind it. And you
Yeah.
grind it hard. You run like Usain Bolt every day. And there's no rest days. Right. So you just got to figure out, like if you're early in career, I say go ahead. Go take that risk. Go do that when you have the time, the energy, and the power. And you just gotta make a decision as you go throughout, because you can do this, but you just gotta understand what you're willing to sacrifice. Lisa, this
Agree.
has been a fantastic, a very enjoyable conversation, but it has to come to an end. But it shouldn't end for everyone. So how can the audience contact you?
For me, and thank you so much. It has been fun getting to talk to you. Email me, Lisa
Yeah.
Shep at Microsoft.com, LISASHEP at Microsoft.com. Feel free to reach out.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Sly and Lisa are out. Peace.